I didn't set out to ruin Daniel's birthday. I set out to rescue my place in a room where I felt myself disappearing. That's the ugliest truth under everything I did. If I could turn the night into a show, then I could turn his spotlight into ours. And if the spotlight was ours, then maybe it still felt like mine. I told myself it was generosity. I told myself people love me because I keep things lively. The real word was hunger, and hunger does not care who gets eaten as long as it gets fed. We hosted at our house because I insisted I knew the layout, the angles, the beats. I cured a playlist with nostalgic hooks from his college years. Order the exact bourbon he pretends not to like because it makes him clumsy, and invited every colleague who ever laughed too long at his jokes. Daniel only asked for one thing. Please, Jen. No stunts this year. No surprises, no viral moment, just dinner and cake. I smiled like a politician and promised. In my chest, something sharp clicked into place. It started small. In the weeks before, he practiced a short thank you speech in the mirror, the one he gives when he's uncomfortable being the center. Keep it to 2 minutes, he said. I teased him about the way he pinched his fingers when he searched for words, mimicked his careful phrasing, turned his humility into a bit. He laughed at first, then asked me to stop. I didn't. When I feel a crowd's attention drift, I chase it like a dropped glass rolling toward a ledge. Everyone arrived, glowing. His boss shook my hand and called me the engine, which felt like praise and threat at once. Our apartment smelled like lemon oil and roast garlic. Balloons floated in the hallway. Daniel looked at me with that quiet gratitude he wears when he thinks I've done something kind for him. I let the look sit in the air between us, like a mint dissolving on the tongue, sweet and disappearing. For the first hour, I behaved. I refilled drinks, told stories that made people comfortable with themselves, not stories that made me shine. But when the room softened, when laughter warmed the corners and the music blurred into conversation, jealousy slid up beside me like a friend and whispered, "Now." I tapped my glass with a spoon. I didn't plan a formal roast. I told myself I was gathering moments, holding them up to the light, letting everyone admire the facets of a man they loved. I called it love to make the knife look like a ribbon. Before we do cake, I said a few truths about the birthday boy. My voice did the thing I hate in other people, the syrupy sing-song that announces I have dirt. Daniel's eyes went alert. I saw him mouth, "Please don't." I smiled bigger. A laugh went through the room like a fuse waiting for a spark. I started with the locks. If anyone wonders why our door clicks 3 times every night, it's not spirits. It's Daniel doing his nightly apocalypse drill. Polite laughs. I moved to work. He practices speeches in the bathroom mirror because he wants to sound natural. Some smiles. Then I drifted lower. Also, pro tip, never give him more than 2 whisleys unless you want a 5-minute performance followed by a 2-minute intermission that landed like a plate sliding off a counter and smashing on tile. I should have stopped. I felt the room tilt against me and still I pushed because once I start, I keep going until the laugh comes or I fall off the stage. I joked about the time he cried during a car commercial. The way he reads instruction manuals for fun. The way he asks the waiter for recommendations and then orders exactly what he wanted to begin with. Nothing monstrous, but all of it set in a tone designed to shrink. My last joke was the worst. I told the story about his first attempt at sourdough and turned the yeast's failure into a metaphor for his. Silence smothered the room. The playlist kept playing like nothing had changed. Daniel stood, not quickly, not dramatically. He walked to the kitchen, took the knife from beside the cake, set it down, and looked at me. "Thank you for the show," he said softly. "I hope it felt worth the cost." Then he turned to our guests. "Thank you for coming. I appreciate you all. Please enjoy the cake." He left the room without looking back. The party collapsed around the hollow he left. People tried to make small talk. Their words bumped into the quiet and fell. A coworker muttered that they had an early morning. Another hugged me like I'd lost a relative. His boss shook my hand again, but not the same way. This time it felt like closing a file. They filed out with apologies and grocery store smiles. I stood alone in a room that smelled like frosting and lemon oil and humiliation. He was in the bedroom packing a small duffel. "Are you serious?" I asked, aiming for amused and hitting brittle. It was a joke. "Humor is when the person you're talking about gets to laugh," he said, folding a sweater. I didn't. "You're overreacting," I said. When that didn't change his face, I pivoted to, "Wounded. You made me feel invisible tonight. Everyone loves you." I needed to take me down a notch, he said, eyes on the drawer. "To remind me who runs a room. I asked for one gentle night. You turned it into a performance about my weaknesses so you could feel strong." Zip the bag. "I'm staying at Mark's for a while." "What am I supposed to tell people?" I asked, which is the closest I came to admitting what I care about most. The story, the audience, the version of me they'll now see. "Tell them the truth," he said. "You're good at that when it hurt someone else." Then he was gone. The door clicked. Once, twice, 3 times, and I wanted to scream that he'd skipped his ritual. But of course he hadn't. The clicks came from me, flicking the deadbolt open and closed as if I could lock in a better version of this night. Morning brought flowers on the counter from guests who'd ordered them drunk, and 3 texts from people who were there. 2 variations of "Are you okay?" and 1 long paragraph from his boss's wife that began, "I think you forgot he's a person and not your material." The last text was from my mother. "Heard about the party. Call me." I didn't. I sat on the floor and ate a paper plate slice of cake with my fingers until the sugar made my tongue feel like sand. I tried apology calls that went to voicemail, apology texts that stacked like receipts he didn't want. I typed "E," went too far and deleted it. I typed "You hurt me" by Shining without me, then deleted that too because even I could hear the rot in it. On day 3, an email arrived from a lawyer whose last name sounded like a gavel. It used phrases like incompatibility and cruelty and seeking equitable division. I printed it, held the warm paper, and felt something unclench, a hand around my throat letting go, replaced by emptiness that felt worse. Friends split like cells. Half said, "Everyone roasts." I just missed the tone. The other half said they'd always been a little afraid of my jokes. One said she'd laughed at first because she didn't know how not to. Another admitted she'd seen Daniel step in front of me at parties before, absorbing my barbs like windshield glass takes rain. I wanted to argue that he liked it, that it was our bit that couples tease. But the evidence of the room that night dragged like a weighted wedding veil behind me. A week later, I met him in a coffee shop to exchange a few things. He looked rested and older, which I realized is another way to say free. I handed him the box with his watch and the sweater he liked and the letters from his dad. He slid across a folder with paperwork and a list of accounts. We talked logistics like colleagues, dividing a project, and then I did the thing I should have done at the beginning of the party instead of the end. I told the truth without trying to be clever. I wanted them to love me. I said. I wanted to remind you I mattered. I wanted to feel taller, and I did it by sawing off your legs. He closed his eyes briefly. I know, he said. But you've been doing that for a long time. The difference is that I finally decided. I like walking, he stood. Take care of yourself. He left his coffee half full, as if he had learned the mercy of leaving some things unfinished. When I got home, I watched the party, back on my phone in fragments. Guests had tagged and then quickly removed a shaky clip of me describing his apocalypse drill, a still of him in the kitchen placing the knife down like a flag, a boomerang of the cake sparkler, sputtering in a room that had no air left. I reported and hid the tags like blotting at a stain that had already set. I boxed up the props of my fun wife persona, the party games, the novelty microphone, the stack of printed toasts I kept in a folder. Under them I found a letter Daniel wrote me 3 years ago when I landed a big client. It said, "You light up a room in a way I'll never know how to do. Thank you for choosing to shine on me, not at me." I folded it back along the crease where I'd once read it and felt loved. I cried until my face swelled and I fell asleep on the rug. You won. That's the part one want you to hear without me twisting it. You won by choosing not to play the game, where my attention is currency and humiliation is a punchline. He won by walking out calmly and letting the room decide who looked small. He won by telling the truth with his feet. And I lost not because people stopped inviting me places, though they did, but because I looked at a man I loved and decided I needed him, diminished in order to feel like enough. Sometimes late I practice an apology in the dark the way he used to practice his speeches. It goes like this. I am sorry. I mistook a crowd for love. I am sorry I used your tenderness as material. I am sorry I taught you to dread my raised glass. I am sorry I forgot that the person you're partnered with is the one human you should never perform at the expense of. If I ever throw a party again, the only toast I will give is silence when silence is mercy. On the counter, one helium balloon has survived, dulled to a satin pear, bobbing at the height of my mouth like a half-finished sentence. I nudge it as I pass and it swings away, brushing the air like a curtain parting for someone who has already left the stage. He won by leaving the room, and I learned that love is quiet when it's real. Humiliation is loud only when you have nothing left inside.